Ford just made a move that nobody saw coming. And after spending 3 days with their latest release, I need to tell you why everything you think you know about American cars might be completely wrong. Over the past 72 hours, I've put this new Ford through every test I could think of. City traffic, highway cruising, mountain roads, parking lots, you name it. And what I discovered challenges everything people have been saying about where Ford is headed as a company. This isn't just another car review. This is about understanding whether Ford can actually compete with what's happening in the automotive world right now. Because here's the thing, the car industry is changing faster than ever, and American manufacturers are either going to adapt or get left behind. So buckle up, because we're about to dive deep into whether this new Ford is actually worth your attention, or if it's just another overhyped release that looks good in commercials but falls apart in real-world use. Let's be honest about something. American car manufacturers have been struggling. For years, we've watched as European brands dominated luxury. Japanese brands owned reliability, and more recently, Chinese electric vehicles started flooding the market with features that seemed impossible at their price points. Ford, like many American brands, has been stuck in this weird middle ground. They're trying to be everything to everyone, and that usually means you end up being nothing to nobody. The problem isn't just about competition, though. It's about trust. Talk to any car buyer today, and they'll tell you their concerns. They're worried about reliability because they've heard horror stories about American cars breaking down. They're concerned about fuel efficiency because gas prices keep fluctuating like crazy. They're anxious about resale value because nobody wants to lose half their investment in 3 years. And perhaps most importantly, they're scared of making the wrong choice because buying a car is one of the biggest financial decisions most people make. Ford knows all of this. They've seen their market share numbers. They've read the reviews. They've heard the complaints. So with this new release, they had one shot to prove that they're still relevant, one chance to show that American engineering can stand toe-to-toe with anyone. But here's where it gets interesting. Instead of playing it safe, instead of just making minor updates to an existing model, Ford decided to take some risks. Big risks. And after driving this thing for 3 days straight, I can tell you that some of those risks paid off in ways I didn't expect, while others left me scratching my head wondering what they were thinking. Let me start with first impressions, because that's where this car either wins you over or loses you completely. The moment I walked up to it in the parking lot, I noticed something different. This doesn't look like the Ford your parents drove. The design language has changed dramatically. The front end is aggressive without being overdone. The lines are clean and purposeful. There's this sense that every curve and angle exists for a reason, not just to look cool in photos. Opening the door, the first thing that hits you is the interior quality. And I'm going to be straight with you here. This is where American cars have traditionally fallen short. We've all sat in American vehicles where the plastics feel cheap, where everything creaks and rattles, where you can just tell that cost-cutting happened everywhere. But this Ford interior actually feels premium. The materials have weight to them. The stitching is tight and consistent. When you close the door, there's that solid thunk sound that luxury cars make, not the tinny crash of economy vehicles. The seat comfort deserves its own paragraph because I spent hours in these seats, and this is where Ford really did their homework. The support is exactly where you need it. The bolsters hold you in place during spirited driving, but don't squeeze you uncomfortably during long highway stretches. The seat heating is quick and even, not that thing where your left side is burning while your right side is still cold. And the ventilation actually works, which sounds basic, but you'd be surprised how many cars get this wrong. Now let's talk about the driving position. This matters more than people realize. You spend every second of your drive in this position, so it needs to be right. Ford nailed it. The steering wheel adjusts in every direction you need. The pedals are perfectly spaced for heel-toe downshifts if you're into that, but also comfortable for normal driving if you're not. Visibility is excellent, which is becoming rare in modern cars where designers prioritize style over the ability to actually see what's around you. The dashboard layout is intuitive. I hate when cars force you to dig through 17 menu screens just to adjust the climate control. Ford kept the essential functions as physical buttons and knobs. Temperature control, volume, basic driving modes, they're all right there where your hand naturally falls. Yes, there's a large touch screen for the more complex functions, but it's responsive, and the menu structure actually makes sense. I didn't need to pull over and study the owner's manual just to figure out how to pair my phone. Speaking of technology, let's dig into the infotainment system because this is where modern cars either impress or frustrate the hell out of you. The screen size is generous without being ridiculous. Some cars now have screens that are so big they're actually distracting, like they're trying to be living room TVs instead of car displays. Ford found a good balance. The graphics are crisp and modern. The system boots up quickly when you start the car. None of that annoying 30-second wait where you're just sitting there staring at a loading screen. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto integration is seamless and wireless. This matters because nobody wants to fumble with cables every time they get in the car. The connection is stable, too. I drove through areas with questionable cell coverage and never had that annoying issue where your phone disconnects and reconnects every 5 minutes. The sound system punches well above what you'd expect at this price point. Clear highs, solid mids, and bass that actually has depth without rattling the panels. But here's where we need to talk about the driving experience, because that's ultimately what matters most. You can have the prettiest interior in the world, but if the car drives like garbage, none of that matters. So let me break this down by different driving scenarios, because a car needs to work in all of them, not just the ideal conditions you see in commercials. City driving is where most people spend most of their time. Stop-and-go traffic, tight parking spaces, pedestrians jumping out between parked cars, delivery trucks blocking entire lanes. It's chaos. This Ford handles this environment surprisingly well. The throttle response is smooth and predictable. Some cars are either too aggressive or too lazy with their throttle mapping, but Ford found a nice middle ground. You press the pedal, and the car responds proportionally. A revolutionary concept, I know, but you'd be surprised how many manufacturers screw this up. The brakes are confidence-inspiring. They have good initial bite without being grabby. You can modulate them precisely, which makes smooth stops easy even when you're dealing with that annoying traffic pattern where everyone keeps lurching forward 3 feet, then stopping again. The brake pedal feel is consistent, too. Not that mushy uncertainty you get in some cars where you're never quite sure how much pressure you need to apply. So for the daily grind, this Ford is a fantastic companion. But what happens when the road opens up? We'll get into the highway performance, the winding back roads, and my final verdict right after this. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next part.